Hello, everyone, and welcome to Intentional by Shay, the space where small creators and nano influencers come to grow, thrive, and make an impact without losing themselves in the process. I'm Shay, your guide through the world of mindful marketing, authentic growth, and all the real life wins and fails that come with building your brand. Each week, we dive into strategies, stories, and practical tips that help you show up with intention, connect with your audience, and actually enjoy the process along the way. So grab your coffee, your notebook, or just grab a comfy spot on the couch, and let's get intentional. Welcome back to Intentional by Shay. Today we are going to pick up exactly where we left off in episode 5, part 1, where we are talking about how to scale your brand mindfully. And so today we're going to pick up on your creation rhythm. Now, this is when and how you actually create content based on your real life and energy patterns. Maybe you're someone who has creative energy in the morning and administrative energy in the afternoon. Your creation rhythm might look like content creation from 8 to 11, editing and scheduling in the afternoon. Maybe you work a full-time job and only have evenings and weekends. So your creation rhythm might look like this. Brainstorm and outline on Sunday afternoon, film content on Wednesday evening, and edit and schedule on Saturday morning. Maybe you're cyclical and your creative energy fluctuates throughout the month. Your creation rhythm might look like this. Bulk create during your high energy weeks. Schedule your content to carry you through your low energy weeks. There's no universal best creation rhythm. There's only what works for you. And the only way to find that is to experiment and to pay attention to when you actually feel capable of creating versus when you're forcing it. My creation rhythm has changed a plethora of times over the years as my life has changed. So right now, I do my deep creative work, like writing these podcast episodes in large blocks of time, literally, usually one full day every other week. I batch my shorter form content in monthly creation sessions. I schedule everything at least a week in advance, so I'm never scrambling at the last minute. This works for me right now, and it might not work for you, and it might not work for me in a year. And that's okay. The point is to have a rhythm that you've consciously chosen, not one you've fallen into by default. Your distribution method. This is how you get your content out into the world without consuming all of your time with it. Are you manually posting everything as you create it? That's probably creating unnecessary stress and stealing time you could be using for creation. Could you batch your distribution? Could you use scheduling tools? Could you create a simple checklist for what needs to happen when you publish so you're not reinventing the wheel each and every time? Your distribution method should be as simple and streamlined as possible. The goal is to make your publishing process so straightforward that it requires minimal mental energy. Your engagement approach. This is how you connect with your community in a way that feels energizing rather than draining. Remember earlier when we talked about how engagement can become exhausting when it's treated as an obligation? Well, your engagement approach is about creating intentional boundaries and structures around community and connection. Maybe you have specific times when you engage deeply in comments. Say 20 minutes after you post something, then another 20 minutes that evening. Outside those windows, you don't feel obligated to respond immediately. Maybe you have a practice of choosing 3 to 5 meaningful conversations to have in DMs each day, rather than trying to respond to every message. Maybe you set aside 1 day a week to engage with other creators' content rather than trying to do it constantly. The key is finding an approach that allows you to genuinely connect without turning connection into a constant, scattered obligation that follows you everywhere. Your signature system is unique to you. It's not something you can copy from someone else, because it needs to be built around your specific life circumstances, energy patterns, and creative process. But once you have it, it becomes the foundation that makes consistency possible without constant effort. Pillar number 3, your growth metrics that actually matter. The third pillar is redefining what growth means to you beyond the vanity metrics that platforms want you to obsess over. We all know the standard metrics: your follower count, likes, views, engagement rate, your reach. These numbers are easy to track, and platforms make them incredibly visible because they want you to care about them. They want you to chase these numbers because the more you chase them, the more content you create, and the more content you create, the more valuable you are to the platform. But here's the question that nobody asks. Are these metrics actually measuring what matters to you? 1 million followers doesn't mean anything if none of them care about what you're saying. 10,000 likes doesn't matter if those people never take action on your message. Viral reach doesn't serve you if it brings in an audience that isn't aligned with your actual brand. So we're going to identify your meaningful metrics, the measurements that actually indicate whether you're building something sustainable and aligned with your goals. Here are some metrics that might matter more than your follower count. Your depth of engagement. Are people having real conversations in your comments? Are they sharing their own stories and experiences? Are they asking thoughtful questions? This indicates genuine connection, which is far more valuable than surface level likes. Your email list growth. Are people willing to give you their email address to hear more from you? This is a stronger indicator of real interest than a social media follow because email requires more intentional output. Your repeat collaboration requests. Are brands and creators coming back to work with you again and again and again? This suggests you're easy to work with and deliver real value, which matters more for sustainable income than one-off viral moments. Your content longevity. Are your posts still getting engagement weeks or months after you publish them? This suggests your content has lasting value rather than just riding a trending wave. Your audience retention. Of the people who follow you, how many consistently show up for your content? A smaller, highly engaged audience is infinitely more valuable than a large, passive one. Your creative satisfaction. This is a metric only you can measure. Are you proud of what you're creating? Does it feel aligned with your vision? Are you creating from inspiration rather than obligation? Your own satisfaction is a crucial indicator of sustainability. And your sustainable income. If monetization is one of your goals, are you generating income in a way that feels aligned and sustainable? Are you relying on one or two income streams? Or do you have diversification? Are you pricing your work appropriately or are you undervaluing yourself? I want you to choose 3 to 5 metrics that actually matter to you. These become your North Star. These are what you track, what you celebrate, what you use to make decisions about your strategy. Here's the really important part. You need to consciously deprioritize the vanity metrics. I know it's hard, but we must. That doesn't mean ignoring them completely. They can be useful data points, but it means not letting them dictate your worth or your strategy. As I continue on this journey, I'm learning how to stop obsessing over my follower count, and I started tracking the depth of engagement instead. This is where things are starting to shift for me. I stopped chasing the trends that brought in followers who weren't really interested in my work. I started creating content that sparked real conversation even if it didn't go viral. And ironically, once I stopped changing growth for growth's sake, my community started growing more steadily. Slowly, but steadily. But more importantly, it was growing with the right people. Your meaningful metrics remind you what you're actually building toward. They keep you tethered to your purpose when the platform algorithms are trying to pull you in a different direction. Pillar 4, your sustainability practices. The fourth and final pillar is the practices you build into your routine that actively replenish your creative energy rather than just managing its depletion. This is where most creators' strategies fall apart. We think about content creation, we think about growth statistics, we think about growth tactics, we think about engagement, but we don't think about how we're going to sustain the energy required to do all of that over time. Sustainability practices are not rewards you give yourself after you've worked hard enough. They're not luxuries you'll add when your brand is successful enough. They're essential infrastructures that need to be built into your system from the get-go. So here are some sustainability practices to consider. Your regular creative play. Time spent creating with absolutely no strategic purpose. No content calendar, no performance goals, no thoughts about what will do well, just pure experimentation and play. This might look like trying a new creative medium, making art that never gets shared, writing for yourself, experimenting with a new platform without any pressure. This practice refills your creative well. It reminds you why you loved creating in the first place. It gives you space to discover new ideas without the pressure of performance. Your strategic rest period. I'm going to continue to say this over and over again. Rest is part of the strategy. Plan breaks built into your content calendar. Not just I'll take a break when I burn out, but proactive rest that prevents burnout from happening in the first place. Now, maybe this looks like taking 1 week off every quarter. Maybe it's lighter content weeks where you post old work instead of creating new content. Maybe it's a full month off once a year. Whatever it looks like for you, it needs to be scheduled and protected, not something that only happens when you literally can't continue. Your input practices. Regular consumption of inspiration that isn't directly related to your work. Reading books that have nothing to do with your niche, visiting museums, taking walks without your phone, having conversations with people outside of your industry. Creators often fall into the trap of only consuming content in their niche, which leads to echo chambers and creative stagnation. Your input practices diversify your inspiration and bring fresh perspectives into your work. Your community connection outside of your brand. Relationships with people who know you as a person, not as a brand. Friendships that have nothing to do with collaboration or networking. Space where you don't have to perform or provide value. Your entire social world becomes tied to your brand. It's incredibly difficult to maintain perspective or remember who you are outside of your creator identity. These relationships are your anchor to your full humanity. Your physical movement and embodiment. Some form of physical practice that gets you out of your head and into your body. This might be yoga, dancing, running, hiking, or my choice, weightlifting and lifting heavy. Whatever helps you remember that you're not just a content producing brain, but a whole physical being. Creative work is largely cerebral, which means it's easy to become completely disconnected from your body. But your body holds important information about your energy levels, your stress, your needs. Physical practices help you stay connected to that wisdom. And your reflective practice. Regular time to step back and assess how things are actually going. This might look like journaling, therapy, coaching, or simply quiet contemplation. It's time dedicated to asking yourself the big question. Am I still aligned with my purpose? Is this still sustainable? What needs to change? This practice prevents you from sleepwalking through your brand building journey. It keeps you actively engaged in steering your path rather than just reacting to whatever comes next. Choose 2 or 3 sustainability practices that resonate with you and build them into your schedule the same way you schedule content creation. Put them on your calendar. Protect that time. Treat them as the non-negotiable parts of your creative practice because they are. These practices might feel indulgent at first, especially if you're used to measuring your worth by your productivity. But I promise you, the creators who last, who built something truly sustainable, are the ones who understand that taking care of themselves isn't separate from building their brand, it's central to it. These 4 pillars, your non-negotiable boundaries, your signature system, your meaningful metrics, and your sustainability practices form the foundation of mindful scaling. Everything else we build is going to rest on this foundation. And I want to pause here and acknowledge that building this foundation takes time. You don't have to have everything perfectly in place before you move forward. In fact, you won't. This is an iterative process. You'll try things, adjust them, refine them. You'll discover new boundaries you need to set. You'll evolve your system as your life changes. That's not just okay, it's how this is supposed to work. Sustainable growth isn't about finding the perfect formula and following it forever. It's about building a practice of regularly checking in with yourself, noticing what's working and what isn't, and being willing to adjust. The difference between where you are now and where you'll be once you have this foundation in place is the difference between surviving your brand and thriving with it. It's the difference between constantly fighting against your own limits and working in harmony with them. It's the difference between growth that exhausts you and growth that expands you. Let's keep building. Now we're going to get into the tactical, practical side of how you actually implement sustainable growth. Because having a solid foundation is essential, but you also need concrete strategies for how to move forward in a way that honors that foundation. I'm going to share specific approaches that I've used and redefined and that I've watched work for other creators who are committed to sustainable growth. These aren't theoretical concepts. These are actual methods you can start applying even this week. Strategy 1, the seasonal content approach. Instead of trying to maintain the exact pace and output year-round, what if you worked with seasons instead? This is borrowed from agriculture, which might sound weird for digital marketing, but bear with me for a second. Farmers don't try to harvest crops 12 months a year. They understand that there are seasons for planting, seasons for growth, seasons for harvest, and seasons for rest. Working against these natural cycles is possible with enough force and intervention, but it's exhausting and ultimately depletes the soil. Your creative energy has seasons too. There are times when you're overflowing with ideas and energy, when creating feels effortless and exciting. And then there are times when you're in execution mode, when you're focused and you're productive. And then there are times when you need to step back, reflect, and integrate what you've learned. And then there are times when you genuinely need to stop and rest. The seasonal content approach means structuring your year to honor these different energies instead of fighting against them. Here's what this might look like in practice. The spring season. Spring season, which is the creative season. This is your high energy creation period. You're brainstorming new ideas, filming and writing content, experimenting with new formats. You might batch create more content during this season than you actually post, building up a reserve for the quieter seasons. This might be a 2-month period where you're actively creating multiple times per week. You're not posting everything immediately, but you're building up your content bank. The summer season, which is connection season. This is when you focus less on creating new content and more on deepening community connection. You might repurpose some of your best content from the spring, but your primary focus is on engagement, collaboration, and conversation. This is when you're hosting live sessions, doing Q&As, really digging into the conversations happening in your comments and DMs, building relationships with other creators. The fall season, which is assessment season. This is your reflection and strategy period. You're looking at what's working and what isn't. You're redefining your approach. You're planning for the next cycle. This might involve updating your content pillars, revisiting your systems, conducting the energy audit we talked about earlier, and setting intentions for what you want to build next. The winter season, which is rest season. This is your lower output period. You might post less frequently, share more repurposed content, take some full weeks off. This is when you're refilling your creative well through those sustainable practices we discussed. The specific timing of these seasons might not align with actual calendar seasons. They'll be unique to your life rhythm and energy patterns. Maybe your creation season is always November and December because that's when you have more free time. Maybe your rest season needs to be during the summer when you're focused on family. The point isn't to follow a specific schedule, but to recognize that you need different types of seasons to plan for them intentionally. Now, what makes this approach sustainable is that you're never trying to do everything at once. You're not trying to create at a maximum capacity while also deeply engaging with your community, while also strategizing your next moves, while also resting. You're giving each type of work its own season, its own focused attention. And here's the magic. When you work with seasons instead of trying to maintain constant high output, you actually end up creating more over the long term because you're not burning out and having to take unplanned breaks to recover, but you're pacing yourself deliberately. Strategy 2, the depth over breadth method means choosing one primary platform where you're going to focus the majority of your creative energy. You might have a presence on other platforms, but it's minimal. Maybe you're just repurposing your best content there without trying to tailor everything to each platform's specific culture and algorithm. Now, this approach works because 1, it allows you to actually understand the platform you're on. Each platform has its own culture, its own algorithmic preferences, its own best practices. When you're trying to master multiple platforms simultaneously, you're constantly in learning mode, never reaching mastery. When you focus on one, you can actually get good at it. 2, it builds deeper community. When your audience know where to consistently find you, when you're regularly showing up in one place, you build stronger connections. You're not splitting your attention across multiple comment sections and DM inboxes. You're creating a central hub where real community can form. And 3, it protects your creative energy. Creating content for different platforms isn't just about repurposing. Each platform has different optimal formats, lengths, styles. Instagram Reels are different from TikToks, are different from YouTube Shorts. Even though they're all short form video, trying to optimize for all of them is mentally exhausting. So how do you choose your primary platform? I want you to ask yourself these 4 questions. 1, where does my target audience actually spend their time? 2, what type of content do I most enjoy creating? 3, what platforms, culture, and values align with my brand? And 4, where have I seen the most meaningful engagement so far? Your answers to these questions will point you toward your primary platform. And yes, this might mean leaving some potential reach on the table. You might not be able to tap into the audience on every platform, but you'll build something much more sustainable on the platform you choose to focus on. This doesn't mean you can never expand to other platforms, but it means you do it strategically and sequentially, not all at once. You build a strong foundation on one platform first, and then, if you have the capacity and the desire, you thoughtfully expand to a second. Strategy 3, the quality threshold method. This is a strategy for making decisions about what content to actually publish. It's particularly useful if you're someone who tends to perfectionism or tends to settle for good enough, even when you're not satisfied. The quality threshold method means establishing a clear standard for what you'll put out into the world and then honoring that standard even when it's inconvenient. Here's how it works. Define your quality threshold by finishing these sentences. Content that represents my brand well is, I feel proud to share my work that. The minimum standard I'll accept for published content is. Be very specific. Don't say high quality. That's just too vague. Say things like clearly communicates one main idea, includes actionable takeaways, reflects my authentic voice, is edited for clarity but not for perfection. Once you have your quality threshold defined, you commit to 2 principles. Principle 1, nothing goes out that doesn't meet the threshold, even if that means posting less frequently, even if that means missing a scheduled post, even if that means turning down an opportunity because you don't have the time to do it at the level of quality you've committed to. This principle protects your brand integrity and prevents you from putting out work you'll later cringe at just to meet a self-imposed posting schedule. And principle 2, once something meets the threshold, you publish it. You don't endlessly tweak and perfect. You don't hold on to it because it could maybe be better. You don't compare it to your best work ever and decide it's not good enough. If it meets your clearly defined threshold, it's ready. Post it. This principle protects you from perfectionism and keeps you moving forward instead of getting stuck in endless revision cycles. The quality threshold method creates a clear decision framework that removes a lot of the anxiety around publishing. You're not constantly wondering, is this good enough? You have a standard, and either something meets it or it doesn't. And here's what's important. Your threshold should be high enough that you're proud of what you published, but realistic enough that you can actually meet it consistently without burning out. If your threshold is so high that you rarely publish anything because nothing feels good enough, it's not serving you. If your threshold is so low that you're regularly putting out work that doesn't represent you well, that's not serving you either. Find the middle ground, the standard that challenges you to do good work but doesn't paralyze you with perfectionism. Strategy 4, the collaboration vetting process. Collaborations can be incredible for growth. They expose you to new audiences, create cross-pollination of ideas, and build relationships with fellow creators. They can also be massive energy drains that take you away from your core work, create misalignment with your brand, and leave you feeling used. The difference between good collaborations and draining ones comes down to vetting. Most creators don't have a clear process for evaluating collaboration opportunities. They just say yes to anything that sounds interesting or comes from someone they admire. But saying yes without proper vetting is how you end up overcommitted and resentful. Here's the collaboration vetting process I use. Step 1, alignment check. Does this person's brand and values align with mine? Not, do I like them as a person? But do we have compatible brand messages and audience expectations? If you're focused on slow, intentional growth and they're all about hustle and constant output, automatic misalignment, even if you like each other personally. Step 2, benefit analysis. What am I going to get from this collaboration? Now let's be honest. Is it audience growth? Is it creative inspiration? Is it building a relationship? Is it learning from their expertise? Now flip it. What are they hoping to get from collaborating with me? Is there roughly equal benefit here? Or is one person giving significantly more than they're getting? Unequal collaborations can still work if both parties are clear and comfortable with the arrangement, but hidden inequity breeds resentment. Step 3, scope definition. What exactly does this collaboration entail? How much time will it require? What's the timeline? What are the deliverables? Get specific. Don't agree to vague. Let's collaborate sometimes. Agree to concrete plans. We'll each create one piece of content about X topic, posting on Y date with Z type of cross promotion. Step 4, energy assessment. Based on the scope we just defined, do I actually have the energy and capacity for this right now? Not, could I make it work if I really pushed myself? But can I do this without sacrificing my boundaries or my existing commitments? If the answer is even no, or even maybe, that's crucial information. It's better to say, I'd love to, but not right now. Can we revisit this in a few months? Than to say yes and deliver subpar work or burn yourself out. Step 5, exit strategy. Before you commit, know how you can gracefully exit if circumstances change. What if halfway through this collaboration you realize it's not working? What if something comes up in your personal life and you need to step back? Having an exit strategy doesn't mean you're planning to bail. It means you're protecting both parties by ensuring there's a respectful way to handle unexpected situations. Only after you've gone through all 5 steps should you commit to a collaboration. This process might feel overly cautious, but it protects your energy and ensures that your collaborations actually serve your growth rather than derailing it. Strategy 5, the content repurposing system. One of the biggest time sucks in content creation is starting from scratch every single time. The content repurposing system is about creating once and using that creation multiple times in multiple ways. But here's where most repurposing advice goes wrong. It treats repurposing like copying and pasting. Post this on Instagram. Post this on YouTube. Then post it again on TikTok. That's not strategic repurposing. That's just spam. Real repurposing means taking a core idea or piece of content and adapting it thoughtfully for different contexts and formats. Here's how to build a repurposing system. Start with pillar content. Create one substantial piece of content, maybe a long-form blog post, a podcast episode, a detailed video. This is your source material. Extract key insights. Pull out 3 to 5 main ideas from that pillar content. Each of these can become its own short-form piece. Adapt for format. Take each key insight and reshape it for different formats. Maybe one becomes a carousel post on Instagram. One becomes a thread on Threads. One becomes a short video. And one becomes an email newsletter. Space it out. Don't post all the repurposed versions at once. Space them out over weeks or even months. Your audience isn't seeing everything you post, and even if they did, people need to hear multiple ideas, multiple times, in multiple ways for them to really land. Layer in new angles. As you repurpose, add fresh examples, current relevance, or new perspectives. You're not just repeating yourself, you're exploring the same territory from different vantage points. The content repurposing system means you're creating less from scratch, which conserves your creative energy while still maintaining consistent output. You're going deeper into your core ideas instead of constantly chasing new topics. And here's a key insight. Your audience actually benefits from this approach. They need repetition. They need to hear your core messages multiple times before those messages really sink in. By repurposing thoughtfully, you're not being lazy, you're being strategic. You're teaching through repetition and variation. These 5 strategies, seasonal content, depth over breadth, quality threshold, collaboration vetting, and content repurposing, are all designed to help you maintain momentum without maintaining unsustainable pace. They're designed to work with your finite energy, not demand infinite output. You don't have to implement all of them at once. In fact, please don't try to. Choose 1 or 2 that resonates most strongly with your current challenges and start there. Build those into your practice until they become second nature. And then consider adding another. This is how sustainable systems are built. Gradually, intentionally, 1 layer at a time. Not through massive overnight overhauls that themselves become overwhelming. Now we're almost there. We have one more section to go, and it is the one that ties everything together. How to actually scale mindfully while maintaining your humanity and your creative soul. All right, we've covered the audit, the framework, and the strategies. But here's the truth. You can have the perfect system, the clearest boundaries, and the most sustainable strategies, and still burn out if your mindset is working against you. Because at the end of the day, sustainable growth isn't just about what you do, it's about how you think about what you're doing. It's about the stories you tell yourself about success, about worth, and about what it means to be a creator building something meaningful. This final section is about the internal shifts that make external sustainability possible. These are the mindset changes I've had to make and am still making to build a brand that expands my life rather than consuming it. Mindset shift 1. From scarcity to sufficiency. The dominant narrative in the creator economy is one of scarcity. There aren't enough opportunities. There isn't enough attention. You need to grab everything you can right now because it might not come again. You need to post constantly because if you don't, people will forget you. You need to say yes to everything because no might mean never. This scarcity mindset is exhausting, and it's also largely untrue. The shift to sufficiency means recognizing that you have enough. You have enough ideas. You don't need to constantly chase new trends. You have enough value to offer. You don't need to prove your worth with constant output. You have enough time. You don't need to do everything right now. Sufficiency doesn't mean complacency. It doesn't mean you stop growing or challenging yourself. It means you grow from a place of abundance rather than fear. It means you make decisions based on what serves you rather than on anxiety about what you might miss. Here's what this looks like practically. When an opportunity arises, instead of your first thought being, I can't say no to this, your first thought becomes, does this align with where I'm headed? When you see another creator's success, instead of thinking, I'm falling behind, you think their path is different from mine, and that's okay. Sufficiency is trusting that your creativity isn't a finite resource that you need to hoard or exploit. It's trusting that opportunities will continue to come. It's trusting that the right things for you won't pass you by just because you're moving at a sustainable pace. The shift is hard because we're swimming in scarcity messaging all day, every day. The platforms want you to feel scarce. That's what keeps you creating. The comparison culture of social media feeds scarcity. The algorithm that penalizes inconsistency creates scarcity. But you can choose a different operating system. You can choose sufficiency. You can build from enough. Mindset shift 2. From achievement to integration. Achievement-oriented thinking says, reach this milestone, hit this follower count, land this brand deal, and then you'll have made it. Then you'll be successful. Then you can relax. But of course, it never works that way. You reach the milestone and the goalposts move. 10,000 followers become, well, but I need to get to 50,000. The brand deal you were so excited about becomes just one brand deal? I need consistent partnerships. Achievement thinking keeps you perpetually chasing a finish line that doesn't even exist. It makes your worth contingent on external validation. It makes it impossible to actually enjoy your success because you're always focused on what's next. Now, integration-oriented thinking is different. It asks, what am I learning right now? How is this experience shaping me? What parts of this journey am I actually enjoying independent of the outcomes? Integration means treating your brand building journey as an ongoing process of becoming rather than a series of achievements to unlock. It means measuring success not by external metrics, but by internal ones. Am I growing as a creative person? Am I developing skills I value? Am I building relationships that matter to me? Am I creating work I'm proud of? When you shift from achievement to integration, milestones become moments to acknowledge rather than finish lines to cross. You celebrate hitting 10,000 followers, and then you continue to do the work that got you there. Not because you're chasing the next number, but because the work itself is meaningful. This shift changes everything about how you experience growth. Instead of always feeling behind or insufficient, you can actually be present for the journey. Instead of deferring satisfaction until some future achievement, you can find satisfaction in the daily practice. And paradoxically, this shift often leads to more sustainable achievement because you're not burning yourself out in pursuit of arbitrary goals. You're building something that can last because it's rooted in process, not just outcome. Mindset shift 3, from comparison to collaboration. Social media makes comparison absolutely inevitable. You're literally watching other people's highlight reels all day. You see their wins, their growth, their brand deals, their seemingly effortless success. And it's so easy to fall into the trap of measuring your progress against theirs. They grew their audience faster. Their content performs better. They got opportunities you wanted. You must be doing something wrong. Comparison is the fastest path to burnout because it makes you constantly feel insufficient. There will always be someone ahead of you by whatever metric you're measuring. Always. The shift from comparison to collaboration means reframing how you think about other creators in your space. Instead of seeing them as competition, as people whose success diminishes your opportunities, you see them as potential collaborators, as people whose work can complement yours, as a community you're building alongside. This doesn't mean you have to actively collaborate with everyone. Remember our vetting process. But it means your default orientation toward other creators is curiosity and possibility rather than envy and threat. Here's what this shift looks like in practice. When you see another creator doing well, instead of spiraling into why not me, you get curious. What are they doing that's resonating? What can I learn from their approach? How can I adapt their strategies in a way that fits my brand? When you see someone else land an opportunity you wanted, instead of bitterness, you practice genuine celebration. You comment, you engage, you support, because you understand their success doesn't limit yours. There's room for multiple people to thrive. And here's the truth that makes this shift possible. The creator economy is not a zero-sum game. Someone else getting flowers or brand deals doesn't actually take anything away from you. Your unique voice, your specific perspective, your particular way of creating. These things cannot be replicated. The people who are meant to find you will find you. And I will reiterate that and I will shout it from the mountaintops. I will tell it to you till you're blue in the face. The people who are meant to find you will find you regardless of who else is in your space. When you stop competing and start collaborating, even if that collaboration is just in your mindset, you free up so much energy that was being wasted on comparison. You can redirect that energy toward your own creative work. You can build genuine community instead of performing success to prove yourself. This shift also protects you from making decisions based on what you see other people doing. You stop adopting strategies just because they work for someone else. You stop chasing trends just because everyone else is. You start trusting your own path. Mindset shift 4, from validation to values. When you start building a brand, external validation feels incredible. Every like, every comment, every new follower. It's tangible proof that what you're doing matters, that people care, that you're on the right track. But external validation is a dangerous fuel source for your creative work because it's unreliable. The algorithm changes and suddenly your posts don't perform the same way. You have a slower week and panic. You create something you love and it doesn't land, and then you start questioning everything. When external validation is your primary motivator, you become completely dependent on things outside your control. You create based on what got engagement last time rather than what you actually want to say. You chase metrics instead of meaning. You perform instead of create. The shift from validation to values means rooting your work in something more stable, your core values and purpose. Why did you start this in the first place? What do you actually care about saying or teaching or creating? What impact do you want to have, independent of how many people see it? When you're clear on your values, they become your compass. Every decision gets filtered through, does this align with my values? Does this move me toward the impact I want to have? This doesn't mean you ignore feedback or don't celebrate engagement. External validation can be informative and encouraging, but it's not the foundation. Your values are the foundation. Validation becomes the cherry on top, not the whole sundae. Practically, the shift might mean creating content that you know won't perform as well, but that you believe in. It might mean saying no to opportunities that would bring validation, but don't align with your values. It might mean accepting slower growth because you're unwilling to compromise on what matters to you, which is what matters to me. I prefer to have a slower growth because I don't want to compromise on what truly matters to me. And that is staying true, authentic, and genuine, and being able to create in a way that is sustainable. And it will not lead me to burnout. It will not lead me to disliking what I'm doing, but to continue to thrive and have passion and love for what it is that I do. And being able to provide value to that, to speak to that, to genuinely share that. That is what's important to me. And I am not willing to compromise on that. And that should be the same for you. And here's what I've discovered. When you create from values rather than for validation, you actually build a more engaged, more aligned community. Because the people who show up are showing up for what you actually stand for, not for a performance you're putting on. They're there for the substance, not the show. Mindset Shift 5, from endless growth to conscious completion. In the creator economy, there's this unspoken assumption that growth should be infinite and constant. You should always be expanding, always be reaching more people, always be doing more. But nothing in nature grows infinitely. Everything has seasons, cycles, natural limits. Trees don't try to grow forever. They grow to the right size for their species and environment. And they maintain that size while focusing energy on other things like reproduction and adaptation. What if your brand could be the same way? What if you could reach a point where you say, this is enough, this is the size and scope that serves my life and my purpose, and then focus on deepening and maintaining rather than constantly expanding. The shift from endless growth to conscious completion means giving yourself permission to reach a sustainable plateau. To say, I have enough followers, enough reach, enough opportunities, and redirect your energy from acquisition to cultivation. This doesn't mean you stop creating or engaging or evolving your work. It means you stop chasing more as an end in itself. It means you get to define what enough looks like for you and then actually honor the definition. Maybe for you, enough is 20,000 engaged followers and enough brand partnerships to supplement your income. Maybe it's 5,000 true fans who deeply connect with your work. Maybe it's 100 people who are going through your programs and getting real transformations. Whatever your enough is, you're allowed to name it and work toward it and then stop when you've reached it. You're allowed to build a brand that supports your life rather than demanding your life support it. The shift is particularly challenging because the platforms and the dominant culture will always push you towards more. But your sustainability depends on your ability to resist that pressure and define success on your own terms. And here's a secret. The people who last in the industry, who are still creating meaningful work 5, 10, 20 years in, they're the ones who figured out they're enough. They're the ones who learned when to stop expanding and to start deepening. They're the ones who chose sustainability over spectacle. Mindset shift 6, from productivity to presence. Our final mindset shift is perhaps the most important one. From productivity to presence. Productivity culture tells you that your worth is measured by your output. How much did you create today? How many posts did you publish? How many tasks did you check off? More is better. Faster is better. Constant forward motion is the goal. Instant gratification is where we want to be. But creativity doesn't actually work that way. Real creative work, the kind that resonates, that matters, that lasts, doesn't come from relentless productivity. It comes from presence. It comes from being fully engaged with what you're creating in the moment you're creating it. It comes from the spaciousness to notice, to feel, to let ideas develop. The shift to presence means valuing quality of attention over quantity of output. It means being fully in your creative process rather than constantly thinking about what's next. It means creating from a place of connection to yourself, to your purpose, to your community, rather than from a place of obligation. Here's what presence looks like in practice. When you're creating content, you're actually creating content. You're not simultaneously checking notifications, thinking about your analytics, planning tomorrow's posts. You're here now with this piece of work. When you're engaging with your community, you're actually present for those connections. You're not rushing through comments to get to the next task. You're having real moments with real people. When you're resting, you're actually resting. You're not resting while also scrolling social media and secretly feeling guilty that you're not working. You're allowing yourself to genuinely step away. Presence is the antidote to the scattered, anxious, never enough feeling that plagues so many creators. It allows you to actually enjoy what you're building instead of constantly feeling like you're behind. And ironically, though maybe not surprisingly, presence often leads to better work and more sustainable growth. Because when you're fully present for your creative process, you make better decisions. You create more authentic content. You build deeper connections. You notice what's actually working instead of just frantically doing more. The shift to presence requires practice. We're also conditioned to multitask, to maximize every moment, to constantly be doing. Learning to be present is countercultural, but it's essential for sustainable creative work. So start small. Choose one activity. Maybe it's your content creation time. Maybe it's your morning routine. Maybe it's your engagement practice. And commit to fully being present for it. Notice when your mind wanders to productivity concerns. Gently bring yourself back. Practice showing up fully for one thing at a time. As you build this muscle, you'll start noticing something is shifting. The work doesn't feel as heavy. The pressure doesn't feel as constant. You're starting to remember why you wanted to do this in the first place. And then you start enjoying it again. And that enjoyment, that presence, that full engagement, that's what sustainable growth is built on. Not hustle, not grinding, not forcing, but showing up fully, consistently from a place of enough. We've covered so much ground together in this episode. We've talked about the burnout growth cycle and why traditional advice makes it worse. We've done the honest audit to identify what's actually draining you. We've built a sustainable framework with the core 4 pillars. We've explored practical strategies for implementing mindful growth, and we've examined the mindset shift that makes it all possible. But I want to close by bringing this back to something very simple and very personal. You deserve to build a brand you can actually live with, not a brand that requires you to sacrifice your health, your relationships, your joy. Not a brand that turns you into a content-producing machine. Not a brand that makes you dread Monday mornings or feeling guilty every time you rest. A brand you can live with. A brand that grows alongside you, that flexibility adapts as your life changes, that honors your humanity even as it expands your impact. This kind of brand is possible. I know it because I'm building one, imperfectly and iteratively, day by day. Because I've watched other creators build them. Because I've seen what happens when you choose sustainability over speed, alignment over achievement, and presence over productivity. It's not the path that will make you go viral the fastest. It's not the path that will get you to 1 million followers in a year. It's probably not the path that will get you featured on one of those 10 creators to watch lists. But it's the path that lets you still be here, still creating, still be engaged and energized by your work 5 years from now, 10 years from now, 20 years from now. It's the path that builds something real instead of something that just looks impressive from the outside. So here's what I want you to do after this episode ends. Don't try to implement everything we talked about at once. Don't create a massive action plan that becomes its own source of overwhelm. Just choose one thing, one single thing that resonated most strongly with you. Maybe it's setting your first real boundary around your work hours. Maybe it's defining your content pillars. Maybe it's identifying your meaningful metrics. Maybe it's just giving yourself permission to rest without guilt. Choose one thing and commit to practicing it this week. Not perfecting it, not implementing it flawlessly, just practicing it. Noticing what happens when you try, adjusting as you go. And then next week, keep practicing that one thing. And maybe if it feels right, add one more small change. Layer by layer, shift by shift, building something sustainable through consistent, imperfect practice rather than through dramatic overnight transformation. Because that's how real, lasting change happens. Not through massive overhauls, but through small, repeated choices that compound over time. Not through force, but through attention and intention. You're not going to get this perfectly right. I'm not getting it perfectly right. There are still weeks when I slip back into old patterns, when I overcommit, when I choose productivity over presence. The goal isn't perfection. The goal is awareness. The goal is choosing sustainability more often than you choose extraction. And every time you make that choice, every time you honor a boundary, every time you create from alignment rather than obligation, every time you choose enough over more, you're building the foundation for a brand that can actually last, for a creative practice that can sustain you for the long haul. That's what mindful scaling is really about. It's not a specific formula or a set of rules. It's a commitment to growing in a way that honors your full humanity. It's a practice of asking regularly and honestly whether the way you're building your brand is serving the life you actually want to live. So yes, grow your brand, expand your reach, build your impact, chase your creative dreams, but do it in a way that lets you keep being yourself. Do it in a way that makes you more alive, not less. Do it mindfully. Because the world doesn't need more burnt out creators who build impressive brands at the cost of themselves. The world needs more creators who figured out how to build something sustainable, who proved that you can grow without grinding yourself into dust, who showed that there's another way. And you can be one of those creators. You already are just by being here by engaging with these ideas, and by being willing to question the dominant narratives about what growth is supposed to look like. Thank you for spending this time with me today. Thank you for being willing to do this work. Thank you for choosing to build something sustainable in an industry that often doesn't reward sustainability. Keep going. Keep choosing yourself. Keep building the brand you can actually live with. I'm right here with you, figuring this out one step at a time. Until next time, this is Shay, reminding you that sustainable growth isn't about doing more. It's about being intentional with what you do